Hey guys, Crypto here with a Bitcoin video update. It has been a little bit of time since my last Bitcoin video update and decided to make one here because we are at a very interesting point in the market right now. Said I'd try and put out more videos, and that's what I'm doing. I got, I think, 2 videos out in the last 1 or 2 weeks, one on Curve and Convex, my top 2 DeFi picks, and then another on XRP before that, and now I decided to make one for Bitcoin. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Again, like my last 2 videos, I'm not going to focus too much on editing and making this perfect. I'm just going to kind of talk through my thoughts in an effort to make the video shorter and allow me to put out more content. So let's get right to it, guys. This is Bitcoin. We've been trading in a very choppy range since October 21st. It's been about a month now that we've been basically moving sideways. And if I go ahead and zoom out here, we can see that we are consolidating here above a very key level. Okay, I'm going to go to the weekly chart now. A very key level that was acting as prior resistance. Okay, and so up until here, this was our very significant resistance level. We rejected against it once we broke through full bull here, and now we're consolidating above it, which is very bullish. It's acting as support. So on the lower time frames, what I'm looking at now is many are looking for a break to the upside here to continue to essentially our targets of $100,000 plus. I do still believe that we will be hitting $100,000 plus during this bull cycle, but I'm just not sure if we're ready for it yet. I don't know if we're going to break through or not, but let me show you guys my arguments and you guys can decide for yourselves. But the bottom line is that the longer that we take to break through and continue on to 100,000 plus, the better it is for growth. Meaning the longer that we take, the higher that will probably go. If we break out tomorrow and just start heading up to 70, 80,000 plus, then there's a chance that we're not going to go as high as I would like. So I don't mind if we take our time here. I prefer that actually, because it means probably that we'll just go higher in the end for the blow off top in this bull run. Consolidation precedes expansion. The greater the consolidation, the greater the expansion. That's just a general rule. The moves up are more healthy when we go sideways prior to the moves up. If we simply go up in a straight line, then there's not as much support built on the way up, and that can lead to, as we've seen in the past, some pretty big drops. So it's preferable that we go up and we build these areas of support or consolidation on the way up that can act as support on the way down. And a beautiful example is right here. You can see that we moved up very aggressively. We consolidated here, built up some support, and then continued on. And you can see that when we fell, this area acted as a very significant area of support. And so again, if we can create these levels of support as we go up, it does take longer, but it's generally healthier for the overall chart. So what we're looking at here on the lower time frames, I want to highlight both the bullish and the bearish arguments. I will be very frank here. I do not know which one we're going to see. Typically in my videos, I'll tell you I'm expecting this, I'm expecting that, because usually I have an argument that makes sense. And I'm leaning in one direction or the other. For now, I'm not quite sure, to be honest, if we're going to break these highs or not. I can see good arguments for both, and frankly, I'm not sure what's going to happen. So I'm making this video to talk to you guys about both possibilities, and you guys can decide for yourself. One thing that I do think will happen, though, or what I'd prefer to happen, is that even if we do manage to break these all-time highs, ideally what I'd like to see is a pullback like this for continuation, or potentially a deeper one. So a breakthrough here, a break back above, and then either a grind down back to support, which will let alts perform beautifully, or another move back down, back into this range, and maybe a sweep of these lows. But let's go ahead and go over both the arguments, or I guess 3 of the arguments, right? So these are the 2 bearish scenarios that I could see potentially playing out. First is a rejection at this level here, and then coming back down to sweep these lows one more time. What we have here is essentially a range, okay? And typically in ranges, what we like to see is we like to see deviations from the range, typically before a big move during accumulation or reaccumulation in this case. We will trade in a range, and then we'll go above it and we'll get pushed back in the range, and we'll go below it and we'll get pushed back in the range, and we'll go above it and we'll kind of keep faking out above and below. What that does is it shakes out smaller players who get impatient and are like, why are we not moving? Why are we just going sideways? And then they shift their focus elsewhere, allowing larger players to accumulate bigger positions before the next major move, right? So ideally, I'd like to see us continue ranging. That's good for our altcoins if we do get that. If we break through, however, then I'm looking for potentially something like this, an aggressive breakthrough to the upside, and then a correction down possibly to essentially continue accumulation, but this is going to be a more aggressive accumulation with a running flat essentially before we actually break to the upside again. So both of those are what I'd like to see. Of course, we can simply break through the highs and blast off and not look back, but this makes more sense to me, and I'm going to go over the reasons for that now. So first, let's go ahead and take a look at these heat maps, okay? These heat maps basically show us where orders are stacked on the books of various exchanges. I'm looking at Coinbase here because it's performed pretty well in the recent price action. You can see here that these lines, basically the brighter that these lines are for those that are new to heat maps, the brighter that the lines are, the more orders are stacked on the order books at these levels. So for example, down here we can see, if we zoom in, that we had 140 Bitcoin stacked at this level. We have 95. So this chart, the bottom axis is time and the upper axis is price. So this is the price chart of Bitcoin, and then this is time, just like your traditional charts. And basically what this shows here is a footprint of the orders that were placed here. So on October 26th, down here you can see the date. October 26th at 2100 hours, there were, for example, 91 Bitcoin sitting on the order books to buy in case price were to go down there. An hour or 4 hours later, there was 95.9 Bitcoin. 4 hours later, there was 96 Bitcoin, all at this price of $58,000 and $58,023. Okay, this is a 4-hourly chart, so that's why I'm jumping in 4-hourly movements. Anyways, we go here and we can see that we had these orders that were stacked here for a long time, right? So from 23rd of October all the way to 27th. So for about 4 days, some larger players had stacked buy orders on the books, and you can see that on this day, we wicked right down into the buy order that were sitting there. Price was pushed back up because the buy orders are triggered, and then that was essentially our bottom. In other words, larger players had essentially built a buy wall at this price level to absorb all the selling that occurred here and then push price back up. You can see then that we pushed to the upside. We rejected here, came back down, and once again we had another buy wall appear. We had a buy wall here as well, but it was never met. Once again, another buy wall appeared here, and you can see price pushed into that buy wall and then pushed back to the upside. Now, above us, we had a sell wall that had not been met here, but that is currently being broken through. So this sell wall is sitting here at $65,000, indicating that larger players may be looking to sell at this level. Now, keep in mind, sometimes the argument is that larger players may be putting these orders on the books and then they may pull them the last minute, basically faking out people thinking, oh, there's support here, let me buy Bitcoin. And then whoever the larger player is just pulls his orders and then price melts through. So that's one argument. You can't say that these will always play out as beautifully as they are right now, but since they have been playing out, we've been paying more attention to them lately. You can see here that we had a sell wall, right? We're currently breaking through the sell wall, but you'll notice that just above all-time highs, we have orders stacked every $5,000 up to $70,000, meaning if we manage to get through this sell wall, in fact, there's another one right here. You can zoom in and see 56 Bitcoin sitting here to sell. And you can actually see the price movements of these Bitcoins sitting here and changing on the order book. But here you go, we have 56 Bitcoin there looking to be sold. And then above that, we have our next major sell wall of 160 Bitcoin. So basically these areas, every essentially $5,000, or actually these are every $1,000, 67,000, 68,000, 69,000. So every $1,000 you have big orders stacked on these books. That doesn't necessarily mean that they can't get broken through. We can see here, over here, we broke through them, right? We broke through 2 of them, and then we got stuck at the 3rd and came crashing back down. So don't assume that just because these walls are here, price will not be able to go through. It's just another factor of confluence that we can use in our analysis and something to keep in mind. So keep those sell walls in mind. Let's go back to the Bitcoin chart, and let's talk about this from a wave perspective, okay? From a wave perspective, off of these lows, we have a pretty impulsive looking move. You can see this aggressive move up, consolidation, aggressive move up, consolidation, aggressive move up, consolidation, aggressive move up, consolidation. So this looks like a pretty impulsive move. So one can make the argument that we may have completed an impulse off of these lows, our first major impulse, and that we're now consolidating and moving sideways before the next major impulse. Now this consolidation can take a while, and this is kind of why I say this is ideal. Our impulse here took about a month, and typically the corrections that follow an impulse generally take longer than the impulse itself, and it can take 2, 3, 4 times longer, in fact. Just for example's sake, if we go back down to where Bitcoin was at 3K, you can see this beautiful clean impulse, and you can see that our correction that followed it took significantly longer than the actual impulse itself. And right after that correction completed, we started our 3rd impulse to the upside. So again, we haven't completed impulse, and I do think we're going higher, but that doesn't mean that we have to go higher right away. We could very well consolidate here longer and build a nice little base from which to move up from, which will be healthier again. So from a wave perspective, we do have a corrective structure here. We have a 3-legged move to the downside. Then we have a 3-legged move to the upside. So the argument here is that we could get another 3-legged move to the downside to complete what would be a complex correction in Elliott wave terms, right? A WXY, for example. And really, this correction could then extend. We can get a WXY, we can get another X wave, and then another WXY, essentially making a larger bull pattern here, a larger consolidation above this key SR flip before we break to the upside, okay? The good thing, and the reason why I prefer this, is that if Bitcoin were to get stuck in this range and chop about, it would be very healthy for our altcoins. Our altcoins would take off and they would perform very, very well against Bitcoin. And I'm mainly in altcoins now because I sold most of my Bitcoin around 50,000 some months ago. Yes, I think Bitcoin that can go above 100,000. Yes, it might even break 150,000. But from $50,000 to 100 to 150,000, that's a 2 to 3x, a 200 to 100 to 200% return on my investment. I'd rather be invested in alts that can give me much greater returns, as they have over the past few months. Anyways, so yeah, we could chop around here and then break out, and I prefer that because it allows the alts to run, and alts will have much higher ROI from current levels than Bitcoin. People sometimes ask me, why do you think that, or that's never going to happen, Bitcoin's the king, and I agree, Bitcoin is the king right now, and that's exactly why altcoins will probably have a higher ROI, because Bitcoin, as it stands, is the safest, least risky asset in the crypto space, and you don't get higher returns with safer bets. Generally, the higher returns come from those investments that are more risky. If everyone can make the greatest returns on the safest bets, that's not how markets are made, right? You make more money because fewer people are willing to take that risk. So, yeah, I do think Bitcoin will probably break 100,000. Regardless, though, I would love for this to play out, okay? If we don't break down from here, and if we don't get rejected by that sell wall, right? If we continue to go up from here and break the highs, you'll recall that on the chart that I just showed you, we have sell wall stacked every $1,000 up to $70,000. So even if we manage to break through here, there's another bearish argument that has us essentially faking out from above and then coming back down, okay? And that bearish argument would be a breakthrough here and then a retracement, okay? In the very most bullish of cases, that retracement would be a running flat, meaning that the movement down would not go below these lows and would stop somewhere in the middle of this consolidation. And we can see that type of structure actually right here as well. We got that right here. You can see we came down, we broke the highs, and then we retraced, but we didn't clear these lows. So essentially a bigger version of that occurring right here would be the next bullish scenario. And again, this would be good as well, because just as this wave is going to take some time, this move down could also take some time, and really this could push into, this could take about a month or so before we continue up to the upside. So this would be the next scenario. If we fail to do that, if we break down and we see more violent sell-off, then we could get something like this, okay? That is the extent to which I would say I can see bearish scenarios playing out. Other than that, the bullish case is simply that we rip through here, okay, and just continue up, and we don't get that big pullback down to the middle, or we don't get that pullback back down into this range. And in that case, the argument here is, yes, we have one wave, yes, we have two waves, yes, we're working on our third wave, but rather than this being a 1, 2, 3 structure before another 1, 2, 3 down, the argument would be that this is actually a start of our next impulse, our third wave. Continuing from this first wave, this was our second wave, and then this would be the start of our third wave. So that's the bullish argument that has us simply blasting through. Now let's take a look at a few other factors and a few reasons why I think that a move up and then a move down, or a rejection here and a move down, makes the most sense out of these scenarios that I've shown you guys. Let's go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin dominance. So Bitcoin dominance is basically a measure of, you can use it as a measure of like strength of altcoins or strength of Bitcoin, or it kind of gives you an idea of what's the better asset to be in at any given point in time. So for example, we'll go back in 2017 and you can see that this is February of 2017, and essentially what this chart is showing us is that from February of 2017, on average, altcoins were performing better than Bitcoin because Bitcoin dominance is falling, meaning Bitcoin is making up less and less of the total market share of the crypto markets. So altcoins started moving and taking up more of the market share of crypto as of February of 2017. And they started aggressively moving because money started pouring into these coins. And you can see that in the interim, we had little spikes up on Bitcoin, or on dominance here, indicating points at which Bitcoin kind of took the spotlight back and started pumping up aggressively. And the most significant of which was right here. And this led to our all-time high in 2017 at 20K. This is when Bitcoin peaked. After Bitcoin peaked, alts started playing catch-up and rallying, and that's what sent Bitcoin dominance to all-time lows. So as I've said many times, and if you follow me on Twitter, you know that I've said that don't even ask me if this bull run is over until we see new all-time lows on Bitcoin dominance. In other words, I expect that Bitcoin dominance will essentially continue to drag on lower through time as more and more projects enter the space and altcoins absorb more and more money. That doesn't mean that Bitcoin won't stay the most dominant crypto. It just means that Bitcoin's share of the pie, I think, is going to get less over time, because crypto in general is a very legitimate technology, and there's much more that can be done with it besides what Bitcoin does. There's so many use cases for crypto. So I envision those taking up more and more market cap as legitimate products come through the space and start gaining traction. So for now, what we're looking at here is ultimately I expect a breakdown of Bitcoin dominance to new all-time lows, and that will be when we're in the thick of our major alt season. In the interim, though, we were looking at these lower time frame levels, and this is a very key area of resistance. You can see here that in 2017, we had a very key area of resistance. We tapped it and then we sank down, right? So in the same way, we have a very key area of resistance here, which is monthly supply, which I go to the monthly chart, you guys can see it here. Right there, right? It's a very key level of resistance, and above that, the screen level is another key level of resistance if we manage to break this one. Now, as it stands, Bitcoin dominance looks bearish, okay? There's a few key levels here that we need to pay attention to, and this could really go either way, which is why I'm not sure if Bitcoin breaks out or rejects. I'll tell you what I lean towards here in terms of dominance and altcoins. But for now, we've now flipped this prior area of support to resistance. So this is resistance now. And we have our local area of support right here. So we're kind of sandwiched in between these two levels. If we manage to break back above our resistance and reclaim it, then I think we probably head to monthly supply. And this type of scenario probably only happens if Bitcoin does that very bullish scenario and absolutely rips the top off of 70K and continues on to 80, 90,000 plus. If Bitcoin follows either of the two bearish scenarios that I've outlined, then it's more likely that we reject here and then break down and then head to all-time lows on dominance right now. Now, even if we get the move up to here, I'm still expecting a breakdown down the road and continuation to all-time lows before this bull cycle is over. It just means that Bitcoin dominance and Bitcoin may steal the show for a little bit. Regardless, that's what I'm looking at here on Bitcoin dominance. Now, let me show you why I think this argument is going to be the one that actually plays out. Let's go ahead and now take a look at Ethereum. All right, so here's Ethereum, and Ethereum generally is known to kind of lead the alt market. So when Ethereum is making very massive moves to the upside, generally it's expected that it'll also follow suit. And you can see here that Ethereum has now entered price discovery, which is always very bullish for any coin that we're looking at. Ethereum has entered price discovery. It looks like it's going to continue pushing on to new all-time highs. Yes, we can obviously pull back. There's no guarantees that we head straight up, but it looks quite likely that we will. Now, taking a look at the Ethereum Bitcoin chart, this chart is very significant. And this chart basically measures Ethereum's strength against Bitcoin. So let's take a look at where we are there, because it's a very key area that we're at right now. So here's the Ethereum Bitcoin chart. And on the lower time frames, we have this local area of support. Let me go ahead and zoom out. This local area of support that we broke through that should now act as support. Yeah, prior resistance, we broke through, it should now act as support. This red region, very, very significant resistance. We've tested it once, we've tested it twice. Both times we rejected off of it. And then we had these levels of support that caught our fall, and we've been bouncing off of them. So we're kind of tightening in between key areas of support and a very key area of resistance. I'm going to show you guys where this key area of resistance came from, and you guys are going to see the significance of it right now. We're going to zoom out to the monthly chart, and you can see here, beautiful interactions with this area of resistance. This is our breakdown point in early 2018 when Ethereum tanked against Bitcoin. And you can see here that we broke down aggressively, and you can see every monthly close that we've got right up against this resistance, unable to break through, but it's only a matter of time before it breaks. So what I'm looking for now is I do think that now that we've reclaimed this key level of support, that's a very bullish sign, okay? If we were bearish, I would have expected a rejection here and then a continuation down to break these supports, but rather than that, we reclaimed it, which is a bullish sign. So, and again, Ethereum's in price discovery, so it does make sense that Ethereum Bitcoin is looking bullish. Now, we need to get a break above this red region, and it's going to take a monthly close to confirm that. You can see, if we don't wait for the monthly close, you can get a fake out. You can see here, on this monthly candle, we broke through. Some people who didn't wait for the monthly close might have thought, hey, we broke through, let's go. And then we got wicked all the way back down, and then we dropped, right? Again here, pushed up, didn't make it, pushed up, wicked down, and dropped. So we're looking for a monthly close above 0.077 on the Ethereum Bitcoin chart to be confident that we've broken through. Once we do that, Ethereum will absolutely take off and altcoins will follow right behind. So we're at a very key point where, again, if Bitcoin decides to relax a little bit and range, Ethereum could continue to pump to the upside, sending Ethereum BTC above this area of resistance and confirming a breakout and confirming alt season essentially. Now, if Bitcoin decides to ramp up and just blast through 70,000, then we may lose this support, in which case we come back down to these areas of support and may fall further down to this level here, okay? Now, I don't think that's going to happen. That would be a very drastic drop. The only situation in which I see that happening again is if Bitcoin absolutely rips the top off of 60, 70K and heads for that 100,000 level now. Again, I don't see that happening just yet. So more likely to me is that we hold this level and that we push up. That means that alts are going to be performing well. And if that happens, it means that Bitcoin is probably moving sideways or chopping about in a range, okay? So with that said, again, I lean towards those two scenarios that I showed you guys earlier, either a break above this area here, and then some sort of a pullback, either back to this level here or potentially all the way down here, or I lean towards a rejection here right now and then a move down. One of those two scenarios to me seems the most likely. I don't know which one we're going to get, and I may be completely wrong. We may just rip through, okay? But either way, I think alts are looking really good right now. And if Bitcoin can just move sideways for a little bit, we're really going to enjoy the gains from our alts. That's it for this Bitcoin video update, guys. It was a little bit shorter than normal, just short and sweet. If you guys enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe so I can keep making this content. All right.